So for Transform, we get retained for design. We build the winning team for you. We figure out what scope of work entails. We design it. We specify that. That's all a paid service that we do before we can actually prepare the bid or the proposal to do the actual work. And you'll see in our design agreement that that is part of it, is presenting you with a construction contract, a detailed list of specifications, and you sign that, get the initial 20% deposit for the job. Then we pull permits, do the HOA and or historic commission requirements as your legal representative to get you across the finish line for a specific scope of work. We can't really do the historic commission or pull the permits or any of that without understanding the scope of work that you're expecting us to provide for you. So we have a contract, detailed scope of work. That's all done in our portal. And shows the descriptions of the work. Sometimes there is some allowances based on specific labor requirements that or material requirements, and you're able to discuss that. We usually try to present that to you in person and go through it line item by line item to make sure, because we've had people in the past just essentially scroll past, look at the bottom line number and approve. And then as we get going into the process, we realize they actually didn't read the contract at all. And they didn't even look at the scope of work. And they actually were going back to something that they said in design that then wasn't priced out, that wasn't specified in the contract. So that's really a goal. That's the opportunity for us to articulate what is expected and to come up to agreement of this is what we're actually going to do. And I'm totally okay with adding more detail and more specification to describe certain things. Obviously, back to that point, that describing the size nail and the standards and all these things can be, and essentially for a remodel could be hundreds of pages. So we have to go back to trusting that contractor to do good work, and in a sense, because if you don't have that trust and you don't understand, they can cover stuff up and they can do things that aren't right, and you may not even have the expertise to know that. So back to that feeling of trust, that authenticity, and that proof, and that existing body of work that they've done and relationships that they have in the community is kind of all becoming the foundation for your remodel going well. And we have had these discussions with our clients that we are planning. We have roots down here. I have been in Moore County for 15 years. I have 5 children. I have tons of relationships here. Before we did the business, we were here with the military, and we elected when I got out of the military to not leave. And I want to be able to go to Pinehurst Country Club and to be able to go to Harris Teeter or Lowe's or the Christmas Tree Farm and run into people that I've worked with and not worry about having any kind of emotional baggage with any of these people that I could prevent. And at the end of the day, my goal is to build a business that provides quality to our clients, and then that we can be in this community together. And even if there is struggle in the remodel and things that we have to work through, that ultimately the final product, I say, is you come into the room and you just go, like, we just fixed it. We've made it so that you can enjoy your space, and it's done well. And that is something that a good contract and a thorough bid and a proposal and a detailed scope of work can help outline that framework. But then in a sense, we still have to go and execute it for you. And so we will oftentimes do that in person. We'll do a thorough review of it. We'll understand. We'll make sure that you're comfortable with it and that you've read things and understand how that works. There's also payment terms in there. And that's a really big thing on our side, because and one of the reasons for doing this course is if we do something wrong, our reputation and our quality of work is, we really care about that. We don't want to be manipulated and bribed, if you will, to say, oh, your final payment for you to fix that little nick that's on the wall when they carried in the flooring and it hit this. And we're going to make it right if it's within the scope of work, if it's something that we're going to do. But we're not going to leave this pot of cash at the end of the job that you're able to manipulate us with. We've been doing this for too long. We've had enough success. We understand this. And we've actually ended up working for some clients that were able to kind of keep the type of person that they are under wraps for us. And that's essentially why we don't leave this giant sum of money for the very end of the project that you can manipulate us with. We pay our subcontractors, our vendor partners promptly, and we are in a sense a trust for you. And we are advocating on your behalf. We're holding the subcontractors' feet to the fire and doing quality work. And, right now there is actually a subcontractor that didn't install flooring for us, right? I have their labor. I am making sure that they actually install per manufacturer specifications and in a above standard way, because we provide near perfect product. Or I will hire other people at that particular subcontractor's expense. But I am not doing that while my clients are holding that money over me. I have the money. I am your representative to hold them to the fire, and I am prepared to be able to make prompt payment as soon as they finish. We don't do financing. We're not a bank, and we actually typically don't do any bank financed projects, because the bank wants to be your bank and charge you interest on the money, but then also hold us to a 90 net 90 terms, and we'll send out inspectors. And we've actually had bank representatives that will work out a deal with the client, and then will not be, the bank is going to protect their interests, and they're okay hanging contractors out to dry, and they're okay with, as long as they can keep their title clean. And so we typically don't do bank financed either, because we end up becoming the bank for 90 days and have to float all of that cash up front for their benefit. So anyway, that is in a nutshell how the bid and the proposal, and how to compare it and look at the scope of work and the quality, just for the laying that wireframe stuff in place to have a actual successful project.